Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So as Week 7 grows near, we start to talk about the Green Bay Packers matchup and how Washington can put together their first win streak of the season, inch ever so close back to 500 on the season, and start to try to make something of this season that has started off in a way that some of us didn't expect. Many of you probably did expect the bottom to fall out of this season, or at least approach the bottom falling out of this season. The season is still on life support, but we're starting to see brain activity. You know, not breathing on it on our own yet, but we're starting to see a little bit more brain activity. And thus, this is a big week. And one of the things that we were excited about after the pseudo bye was that we're going to get some guys back potentially. You know, Logan Thomas, Jahan Dotson, Sam Cosmi, just to name a few. Well, by all accounts, it doesn't look like Logan Thomas is playing this week. Jahan Dotson reportedly re-aggravated his hamstring. And Sam Cosmi right now stands as the lone wolf of the guys that we thought we may be potentially getting back for this big matchup versus Green Bay. Maybe the only one able to suit up and go on Sunday. Word out on the street is Jahan Dotson re-aggravated his injured hamstring in practice today, was not able to finish practice, and they're going to await his, situation tomorrow, how he comes in. Is he sore? I've told you guys this. Hamstrings are tricky, and this can be a season-long lingering issue. We saw it with Curtis Samuel last year, how it starts as a hammy, and then it becomes a groin, and now it's this and it's that. And so this is something worth monitoring. This guy started out like gangbusters, 4 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks of the season, leading all rookies. Hell, he was second in the league in touchdown grabs after 4 weeks. Not of rookies, of all NFL wide receivers. And what started as a promising rookie campaign may turn into an injury-plagued one. Let's hope that's not the case. He's already missed the last 2 games. Looks like he's going to miss another one here. And if it is a re-aggravation of the hamstring, then he's going to miss more than just 1 game. And at that point, I will advise them to do the thing that I told them to do last year with Curtis Samuel that they refused to do, which is what they probably should have done with Jahan Dotson, which is put him on IR. Don't tempt yourself with the prospect of him coming back in 3 weeks. If you put him on IR, he's guaranteed to miss 4 games, and there you don't have to worry about, man, let's test it and see if he can go this week. Put him on IR, let him heal up, and then you go from there. One less weapon for Taylor Heinicke to get the football to. We were really excited to see what he would be able to do with all these weapons that were being provided this season to whomever was at quarterback. And now Dyami Brown doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Jahan Dotson doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Logan Thomas may not play this week. I still like the tight end room. Despite the injury, I want to see more of Cole Turner, so I'm really not tripping about Logan Thomas. But Jahan Dotson not being out there is a pretty big effing deal when you think about the fact that Dyami Brown may be out as well. And now you're down to just really Terry and Curtis Samuel and then Dax Milne and, Cam Sims, which is not terrible, but you lose a lot of speed when you take Jahan Dotson and Dyami Brown both out of the lineup. So we'll see what happens, but it sounds like a re-aggravation of the hamstring for Jahan Dotson, which is not great news if you are a Commanders fan. So we go to in other news. We heard from both the coordinators today, Scott Turner, Jack Del Rio. I heard from a lot of guys in the locker room scrum from yesterday. So Terry spoke at great lengths, too, for about a good 7 minutes at his locker. You heard from Logan Thomas, you heard from Jahan Dotson, you heard from Sam Cosmi, all the guys that were banged up, and all the optimism that they spewed about playing potentially this Sunday, and now it looks like 2 out of the 3 guys aren't going to be able to suit up. As a matter of fact, let's not delay. Let's get straight to the injury report for both teams heading in to week number 7. And, of course, we start with Washington. John Bates, hamstring, not going to play. De'Ami Brown, groin, not going to play. William Jackson III, back, not going to play. We'll talk about William Jackson III here in a second. Logan Thomas, calf, not going to play. Carson Wentz, we already know he's out. The question is, are they going to put him on IR? We'll see. Jonathan Williams, running back, not going to play. Percy Butler was limited yesterday with the quad, did not play last week versus the Chicago Bears. Was a full go this week, though. And so I think he might have missed the last 2 games, Tennessee and Chicago. So good to hear that he's out there practicing in a full capacity. You get one of your better special teams players out on the field. Tariq Castro-Fields did not practice with a knee injury. That sucks because we're already very limited at the cornerback position as is. With William Jackson III potentially being out, you're already down, a corner. And so Tariq Castro-Fields not being healthy is a problem. They may have to bring up someone from the practice squad, whether it be Corn Elder or Danny Johnson. One of these guys may have to be elevated because of the lack of depth at the cornerback position with some of the injuries right now. Sam Cosmi, finger limited again today. I think he's going to be able to give it a go. He talked about how the hand is affecting him. As I told you, it's in a soft cast. It's wrapped up. He's got a club on his hand, and he's like, yo, I've never done this before, so it's an adjustment. He's like, I got one hand and then I got a nub. It's tough, but he's working through it, and we'll see how it affects him. He said the one thing he will feel like he'll gain throughout all of this is he'll have to be sound in his technique. Footwork will have to be good. Hand placement is of the utmost importance. So just the little things you have to hone in on because you don't have the use of your hands. And offensive linemen grab on every single snap. Every single snap a lineman is grabbing. He doesn't have the ability to do that with a nub on his hand. So he's going to have to be technically sound. We'll see if he's able to get the job done or not. But I think he is going to give it a go this week. And then Jahan Dotson limited, but as I told you already, he started practice, but I don't think he finished practice. Don't quote me on this, okay? But word out on the street is he did not finish practice today, and that limited is going to turn into a DMP tomorrow and an out for Sunday's game, more likely than not. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and Jahan Dotson is good to go for Sunday, but it doesn't sound promising as we sit here right now. You transition from Washington to Green Bay. And so, like always, we've got a laundry list of injuries and guys that are going to be out, and the other team has, a couple guys, but nothing really too major. What's new, right? Randall Cobb isn't going to play. I explained that yesterday on the show with his ankle. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. Jake Hansen doesn't sound like he's going to play, a backup offensive lineman. Aaron Rodgers, we'll talk about his right thumb a little bit later on in the show, but he was a full participant. I already told you guys it's not an issue, but it is an issue, but it's not an issue. Christian Watson, the second-round rookie wide receiver, is going to be out of this game. He's missed quite a few games already this season, and add another one to the list this upcoming weekend versus Washington. David Bakhtiari, the left tackle, who has been really hampered by injuries the last 2 seasons, came back about 3 weeks ago and has been playing solid football, but, still dealing with issues lingering from the injuries. Limited, he's going to play. He's going to play in the game. Elton Jenkins, he's going to play in the game. Both of these guys played last week. They've been dealing with injuries, but they're going to continue to gut it out. And so I expect both of those guys to be in the lineup. Those are 2 starting offensive linemen. And then Rashawn Gary, again, full yesterday, full again today. Nothing to see here. And Mercedes Lewis is 89 years old, so they just gave him the day off. That's all that is. So, again, really nothing to see here. You got 2 receivers that are out, but they're going to get Samuel Watkins back, which sucks. I would have rather had Randall Cobb play than Samuel Watkins because of the impact that Sammy Watkins can have on the offense. So that's not a benefit to us. But anyway, heard from the coordinators today. And, with Scott Turner, at this point, I'm so disappointed in him this year. I was expecting big things from him. So naturally, when I listen to him talk, it sounds like Charlie Brown at this point. It's just a bunch of noise. It really he doesn't resonate with me like it did earlier in the season. That said, I still want to hear what he has to say. He talked about the evaluation process, self-evaluation, self-scouting over this pseudo bye week. And he said the biggest thing that they've got to do is they've got to convert on third downs, which I've talked about it. The last 2 weeks, Washington is 3 of 22 in the third down department. 1 of 11 against Tennessee, 2 of 11 versus the Chicago Bears. It's not good enough. It's not going to win you many football games. It's part of the reason we didn't beat Tennessee. It's the reason that the Bears almost came back and beat us. And if we continue to struggle on third downs, it'll be the reason the Green Bay Packers beat us. We have to be better on third downs. He talked about eliminating the mistakes on the first and second down situations, whether it's a penalty or it's a loss of yardage, whatever the case may be, putting us in those third and long situations. But it's not always third and long. Like, he tried to make it seem like all of these conversions we found ourselves in 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 13. That's not the case. We're in 3rd and 4, we're in 3rd and 6, and we're not converting. And so some of that's on the play caller. Some of that is we're running 18-yard routes and it's 3rd and 6. And the quarterback's getting pressure and he's got nowhere to go with the football because no one's turned around yet because they're running such deep routes on 3rd and 6. I struggle with his lack of awareness because every time he talks, he makes it seem like it's a simple fix. Like, hey, for instance, he talked about the Bears blitzing us. Like they only did it one time in the game. They did it multiple times, and they got to Carson Wentz twice on like 2 out of the first 3 possessions. They ended our drives with blitzes. And he's like, they got us on the first possession of the game. They came with an all-out pressure, and we weren't worried. We weren't ready for it. Something they hadn't done all season long, short week. We weren't prepared for it, and they got us. You got to give them credit. I'm like, dude, they did that multiple times, and they got to us. And then even when they didn't get to us, it sped Carson's internal clock up, and he's inaccurate with the football. So, again, a little frustrating listening to him talk about things as if, it was a one-off. Dude, we're 3 of 22 in the last 2 weeks on third down. It's not a one-off. But to his point, we can't have the mistakes on first and second down. We have to put ourselves in a manageable down and distance. And now with Taylor Heineke's legs being entered into the mix, if you find yourself in a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 4, doesn't always have to be get the football to a playmaker. It can be, hey, Taylor can make it happen with his legs. So there is another dimension added with Taylor in the mix. He talked about not really changing the playbook, but really, just tailoring it more to the strengths of Heinicke. I'd like to see that. I don't really know what that even means because I don't think he's going to do anything really that much different other than maybe not as many deep shot calls with Taylor because his arm doesn't really allow you. But he's still going to take shots. They're not going to stop throwing the football deep because Taylor's arm isn't tremendous. They're going to just be more selective in when they do it. But he talked about the running back situation. Look. The same shit he's been saying all season. We're gonna go with the guy with the hot hand, but we want to get all these guys. I'm just when it comes to situations like this, I defer to Ron. Ron already told us we're gonna get Antonio involved more in this game. Cool. That's all I need. I don't really care what Scott's talking about. When Ron says some shit, I know it's gonna happen. When there was an issue with Terry getting the football, Terry got the football the next week. When there was an issue with J.D. McKissic getting the football, Ron said something, J.D. got it the next week. I'm expecting to see Antonio Gibson get some touches in the first half of this game because the last 2 weeks, he was invisible in the first half of the games against Tennessee and Chicago. So I expect Antonio Gibson to touch the football early and often in this game. Not to say that Brian Robinson won't. And, again, to Scott's point, if you convert on third down, you get more opportunities, so there's more chances for Terry to get touches, for Antonio to get touches, for J.D. McKissic to get touches, for Brian Robinson to get touches. When you go 3 and out or you go 6 and out, all right, you get 1 first down and then you don't convert on the next set of downs and you only get 6 plays on a possession, it's going to limit the amount of opportunities that Terry's going to have and Brian's going to have and Antonio's going to have. So the longer you possess the football, the more plays you run, the more opportunities guys have to touch the football. So, again, all of that makes perfectly good sense. Now it's about going out and executing. Easier said than done with this team, it seems like. you get to Jack Del Rio. Really, Jack said nothing, and I always love Jack because Jack really doesn't give you anything during these pressers. Um, he just gave a lot of praise to Aaron Rodgers as he should, and really didn't say anything crazy. Didn't want to comment on William Jackson III. He said, I'll defer to coach on that one, which is his go-to move, which is the right move. And so really don't have anything to add with Jack. Jack's doing a really solid job. He was a punching bag early in the season. No one is even mentioning Jack's name anymore, so that's a good thing. But speaking of William Jackson III, he was asked by reporters in the locker room yesterday during that locker room scrum, did he demand a trade? Does he want out of Washington? He's like, look, I don't know where that came from. I didn't ask for a trade. The media loves to write stuff and have these different narratives. I'm not out here looking to fight these dudes, but you come straight to me and I'll tell you, I haven't asked for anything. I'm just trying to get healthy so I can get back out on the field. That's essentially what he said. So I'm going to go from what the man is saying. I do think he's frustrated. I do think they're frustrated with him. I do think there is this sentiment that there would be if an offer comes, and I think you can't even begin to try to shop him until he's fully healthy, right? Which is why Ron is non-committal on putting him on the field, because I think they do want to move him. And I think the right thing to do is for William Jackson III, who I do think wants out, to say, I don't know where this is coming from. Because you don't want his trade value to tank. You don't want him to be a disgruntled player. You don't want this thing to turn ugly because you want the trade value there so you can move him. So in my mind, I do think they want to move him. I do think that as soon as he's healthy, we may hear about a trade and we'll see what happens. But because he's dealing with a back, no one's trading for an injured player. So got to get him healthy first. And then you're able to start talking turkey with some other teams around the league because everybody can use a corner. I don't know how they feel about William Jackson III, but everybody can use corners in the league. You can never have enough of them. Shit, we can use some corners right now. We're about to give one away, and we could use one. So we could use two or three, actually. But I digress. Moving forward, I don't think he's going to be a member of this team by the time this season ends. I'll just say that right now. But before we move on and go behind enemy lines, I want to go ahead and give away these tickets real quick. So if you're a member of the MOBB or on Patreon, I want to thank you once again for all that you do for the Louie T Network. You guys are the pulse and the heartbeat of this movement. And so once again, thank you. And again, this is just a small bit of gratitude, for you guys is, dedication, devotion, time, energy, resources, all the stuff that you pour into the Louie T Network. Can't thank you enough. So without any further ado, here's the drawing. Good luck to all of you out there. And let's see who gets it done. So, congratulations to Abel Ambrosio. You are the winner of the Green Bay Packers tickets. 2 tickets await you. All you have to do is hit me up either via email or via social media, preferably Twitter. DM me at LouieTeeNetwork on Twitter if you have a Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter, that's perfectly fine. You have an email address. And just email me, LouieTeeNetwork@gmail.com, and we'll get the particulars out of the way, and I'll get you your tickets. If you don't respond within the next 36 hours, then our second place winner becomes the de facto winner in Quest Beats. So keep in mind, if you are Quest Beats and you're out there and you're interested, just send me an email, and I will keep you abreast of the situation so that you'll know if the tickets haven't been claimed, if you're interested. If neither of you are interested, I'll go about the back channel way of finding a way to get these tickets in the hands of a devoted member of the MOBB or Patreon. So with that said, let's go behind enemy lines real quick. Green Bay Packers are the opponent this week, and I went and I watched the game. I watch all the games, but I watched their game last week against the Jets. And I must say, It is the most unprofessional football game I've seen Aaron Rodgers participate in as a member of the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not being, over the top. It's not hyperbole. I'm not being a prisoner of the moment. And I know there have been other games that have been nasty with Aaron Rodgers involved. But with Aaron Rodgers being relatively healthy, and he does have a thumb injury, and I've dismissed the thumb because he's going to play, as you saw, a full participant today in practice. However, he had a ball slip out of his hands. Now, it was a wet day in Green Bay. All right. It was kind of misty all game long. But that thumb does impact him slightly because that ball comes out of his hand. He doesn't get hit. There is pressure around him, but nobody touches him. And the ball just comes out of his hand as he's about to throw it. I can't help but think that has something to do with that thumb injury and him being able to have, proper grip strength. So that's something to keep an eye on there. He was absolutely harassed in the game by the Jets. For as many mistakes that the Packers made, and there were, errant throws by Rodgers, which is something that we don't see. Tight coverage at the cornerback position, especially by their rookie Sauce Gardner, all over those Packer receivers. But, really it just across the board from a defensive standpoint, the Jets were locked in. And they got after Rodgers. They hit him 9 times. They sacked him 4 times. He was under duress. They played good coverage on the back end. Their linebackers were extremely active in Mosley and Williams. Those guys were flying around. And the running backs were tackled in the backfield. I think that is the most tackle for losses I've ever seen the Packers endure from a run blocking standpoint. The Jets were constantly in the backfield. It wasn't just Aaron Jones. They were also hitting A.J. Dillon in the backfield. I think they had at least 4 tackles for losses in addition to the 4 sacks. Then you couple this in. I talked about Rodgers having the ball come out of his hand without anybody hitting him. I talked about some inaccuracies. How about a fumbled quarterback running back exchange with the ball being perfectly placed in the breadbasket of running back A.J. Dillon and him just fumbling the football? Jets recover that. You had a blocked field goal that the Packers attempted that the Jets were able to get their hands on. You had a blocked punt that the Jets were able to pick up, scoop, and score. When I tell you they were as sloppy as I've ever seen, it was as sloppy as I've ever seen. And then the defense, which has been pretty solid this season, they give up over 130 yards rushing to the Jets rookie running back, Breece Hall, who was running all over them. The quarterback, Zach Wilson, only threw the football 18 times in the game. He didn't have to do much because the Packers were imploding. They're turning into one of those teams. Now, they still have Aaron Rodgers, so don't be disrespectful. Obviously, Vegas sees it differently. Okay, they're 4.5-point favorites in this game because they fully expect Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers to get right against Washington. And why wouldn't they? Okay, we seem to be everybody's get right game. When you're having issues, usually go to Washington and they'll become an antidote for you. You'll get back on track. So we'll see. But Rodgers is right now on a 2-game skid. The Packers have lost 2 games in a row. That is rare. The 3-game losing streak is unheard of for the Green Bay Packers. They don't do that with Aaron Rodgers healthy. Okay, so it's tough to expect us to win this game. And I've heard some of you say you're expecting a win. I'm not expecting anything. I'm hoping, but I'm not attaching expectations to this game. I'm just hoping we can find a way to do some of the things the Jets did. The biggest difference between the Jets defensively and Washington is their secondary is legit. Ours is not. And because of that, I do think they're going to have some abilities to make some plays that the Jets just weren't giving up in that football game. But we can get pressure on Rodgers like the Jets did. I think we can stop the run effectively enough. The Jets were really good in that department as well. They ran it very effectively, but they had a very creative run game as well. It wasn't just the status quo gun run like we like to do or, outside zone. They had some creative stuff. We had some creative stuff against the Bears where we ran a counter play with Antonio Gibson and got him all the way out. We went, weak side counter, which is the first time I've seen it all season, and he picks up about 18 yards on the weak side counter. So I'd like to see us continue to implement some different things in the run game, but like the Jets did, because they had a ton of success. They kept the Packers off balance. And like I said, I don't expect that kind of performance from the Packers again. They were absolutely disorganized and discombobulated. Again, they looked like us. They looked like Carolina. They looked like Houston. They looked like one of these bad teams, Detroit. in the league right now. They look like one of us. They didn't look like they were a part of that upper echelon group. You remember what I told you when we played the Bears? Sometimes you just need to take a step back and allow a team to implode. That's what the Packers did last week. Don't expect that again this week. I'm just going to forewarn you. They're going to be laser-like focused after the embarrassing performance they put out on the football field on Sunday. They're going to be laser-like focused. They took Aaron Rodgers out of that game with 2 minutes to go and put in Jordan Love because they were getting their asses reamed 27-10 at home to the New York Jets. The crowd was booing the Green Bay Packers. When does that happen? They got booed 3 or 4 different times in that game. Okay? Like, this Packers team, they're desperate for a win. We're desperate for a win. We'll see whose desperation wins out. But I can tell you this much. If we can get to Aaron Rodgers, the first things first, stop the run, because that's been the Packers' best offense this season, is their rushing attack. If you can get to those running backs and slow them down, and I know this sounds crazy, and I told you when I said it the other day, it sounded crazy, but I mean it. You can make Aaron Rodgers have to beat you with these young receivers. Now, they're probably getting Samuel Watkins back, which I am not thrilled about. I would have much rather had that be Randall Cobb at his ripe old age than Samuel Watkins, because he can still be a difference maker for this Packers football team. That said, I'd much rather have, Aaron Rodgers having to slice and dice us than the run game just going at us. If we can't stop the run effectively, we will lose this football game, and it won't be close. If we can stop the run, it doesn't guarantee us anything. It's still Aaron Rodgers. They still got Allen Lazard, and they're going to add Samuel Watkins in more likely than not. They have Robert Tonyan. Look, they're going to have enough weapons to kick our ass. Don't get it twisted. But I'll take my chances with them having to drop Aaron Rodgers back and us being able to get pressure against what is a very, very suspect offensive line at this current juncture. I'll take my chances with that versus them gouging us in the run game and not putting Aaron Rodgers in those compromising situations. They were constantly in 3rd and long against the Jets. I'd like to get a piece of that action. I don't know if we will be able to or not, but I'd love to get a piece of that action. Keeping them in some 3rd and very long situations. I'd like to see what we can do. If we can stop the run first and then get after Aaron Rodgers. I thought we did a really good job of that last year. If we can duplicate that, I think the results may be different this time around. So that's your behind enemy lines. Tomorrow we will get into the specifics on what it'll take to get a victory when we go to the game plan. And then, of course, you'll get to the prediction for the football game. But that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on your Thursday installment of Commanders Nightly News. Look forward to chopping it up with you on Friday, putting a bow on this week, and taking a look at what it's going to take to get this thing done against the Green Bay Packers, man. Really looking forward to it. Hope we are able to get it done against the Packers. But I can say this. This is the most winnable a football game as we've had against an Aaron Rodgers-led football team. I'll just leave it at that. Doesn't mean a damn thing. But this is the most winnable football game that we've had as Commanders fans, Redskins fans, football team fans. This is the most winnable football game going into the game against Aaron Rodgers that we've ever had. I don't know what the spreads were for the previous matchups. I guarantee you they were more than 4.5 points. Just a guess. I could be wrong about that. Maybe the 2016 game where Kirk outdueled, Aaron Rodgers on a Sunday night. Maybe that game wasn't, but a 3 or 3.5 point, favorite for Green Bay, or a 3 or 3.5 point dog for Washington. But usually we're 6 or 7 when it comes to Green Bay. It's 3.5. So that lets you know that it's 4.5. Excuse me. That lets you know that Vegas, they expect Green Bay to win, but this isn't your typical Green Bay Packers rolling into this matchup. I'll just say that. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Again, congratulations to Abel Ambrosio. Hit me up. Get your hands on these tickets so you can go and do what you're supposed to do, which is bring home the dub. If not, Quest Beats will be waiting in the wings. You guys enjoy Thursday Night Football. I'll see you on Friday. Have a good one.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.